Today, I had the honor and pleasure of receiving Marc and Cody from the Mac Miller Memoir. We had an incredible conversation about how they built a huge brand in memory of Mac Miller, amassing hundreds of thousands of followers across all social media platforms and organizing in-person events with thousands of people gathered together. We also delved deep into some interesting topics. They truly embody the ethos of TeamMADE, and I couldn't be more proud of these two. I'm also very grateful that they were willing to do this. As a side note, I'd like to mention that this is still a learning curve for me in terms of production, video, audio, and setup. Many things I'm seeing may not necessarily be perfect, but I keep reminding myself that I just have to start somewhere. So I want to say thank you for watching, supporting the podcast, and know that I will only get better with each episode. That said, without further ado, let's welcome Marc and Cody. Okay, welcome guys. Cody, Marc, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us.
I'm super excited you guys came. Very happy that you guys were willing to come up. I'm like I told you guys before we started recording, I'm super pumped to try to pick your brains of what you guys, built and continue to build. Like I told you guys, I find it super impressive, just crazy.
Thank you. It means a lot.
Completely crazy. And so for those listening, for those watching, I just wanted to kind of give a context. Correct me if I'm, wrong on something or if there's something missing, okay? So Cody and Marc are presently the co-founders of the Mac Miller Memoir, right?
Right. Correct.
Okay. So it started in September 2018. The Mac Miller Memoir has amassed hundreds of thousands of followers across social media platforms, Twitter, X, Instagram. I know you guys have a Facebook page. Numerous posts on social media with millions of views, from what I've seen. Featured and mentioned by very recognized music outlets and blogs and articles such as, and you could probably add some in here because I know I'm missing some, Billboard.com, Teen Vogue, iHeartRadio, Pittsburgh City Paper, TheSource.com, and more. There's probably others that I'm missing or even, more credible sources. And from what we obviously spoke about that I really want to dive into is that you guys just finished organizing and actually realizing the 5th annual Mac Miller Memoir celebration.
Celebration of Mac, yeah.
Celebration of Mac. That's what you guys call it?
No.
Okay, so how did...
right into it.
Yeah, right into it. How did this whole thing start? And you could either go first, but how did the whole Mac Miller Memoir page, idea, concept start? Bring me into it.
I think to take it back to 2018, Marc had a fan page that he was running a couple years prior that I think he lost. Yeah, because I logged in the UK, and since it was like a different continent, they thought I was getting hacked, so they shut down my page. So and he never got it back from there.
A fan page?
Yeah, a Mac Miller fan page.
Oh,
I used to be a big fan, so all my thoughts and updates and everything, I used to keep up to date with all of that. So Marc was doing it ahead of time, so he already had sort of the, I guess, perspective of how to run things.
Yeah.
I've always came in with like the networking and like the business mindset, so I wanted to create something, especially as a longtime fan of Mac, a channel to kind of, keep his legacy alive, to keep the conversation going, to kind of keep a way for the community to stay together. And I remember reached out to him right away, kind of right after he passed, and I'm like, we need to start something to just remember him, like to keep things going. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Marc being one of my closest friends, him already having a page prior, knowing kind of what everything worked in that social media space, was the perfect kind of start to everything. Then we brought in Zach, who was our Pittsburgh friend, and him being the Pittsburgh native, everything kind of just tied together really well. And that was in 2018, and things kind of just slowly took off by themselves from there.
That's amazing. Yeah. When did Mac Miller actually die?
September 2018. So okay. we just started the page a couple weeks after. I think it was literally within like 2 days of his passing that we started it. Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I had tickets to go see him in Pittsburgh in November for his last swimming tour, which unfortunately didn't happen. So I was going to Pittsburgh regardless. So that's where we had our first meeting. We decided to just bring people together
people who had bought tickets from all around the world. So it was just like bring people together.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What? You still have those tickets?
Yeah, for sure.
I was thinking that right away. I was like, man, those tickets.
You know, I still have all my tickets. I mean, Cody put me onto Mac in high school, so when we were kids. So it was just like, for me, Mac is my outlet with music. He helped me through so much. I was like very... I feel like a lot of people or fans feel like we grew up with Mac.
I listened to him too. I was telling my girlfriend before. And
it's just something that we could relate to. Because he didn't feel like one of those artists that just like mainstream and anything. You feel like he was quote unquote a friend. You could relate to him. You could understand him. So from my perspective, that's what it was. You know.
Yeah, it's a very common thing amongst all of his fans that everyone kind of feels like we grew up with him. Like again, like he said, like we were close with him. We were one of his friends, and I think that's kind of why people relate to him so much. Is that there's something in his music that we all kind of grew up with, where you couldn't really get that at the time with any other artist. He was just really relatable. And I remember in high school, I forgot who put me onto him, but I was one of the first people in our friend group to ever listen to his music. And I put him on, I put a bunch of people on, and I think that was kind of the start of just, you know, we had no idea what it would become in terms of like how much we love his music. But it was cool to kind of see him at the prime of his come up, but then to also kind of see him as an artist kind of explore his music and like kind of see his journey.
Evolve, yeah.
So like a lot of people say we really kind of grew up in the aspect of like seeing him start off as an artist to like where he got to. So it was a cool kind of like experience for everybody.
Yeah, I remember I started listening to Mac Miller. I used to play hockey and stuff, and I used to have like his whole album. There was Best Day Ever. What's the album with Nike's on my feet? Best Day Ever?
Imagine kids.
Oh my God! I was like, did I put you guys on the spot here? Oh my God!
That was good.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I used to listen to like so much of his music, and I don't know how I had fell onto him or how I discovered him. I think it's just because he was so, I mean, on the come up, or I don't know. I don't know, and a lot of songs were catchy too. So that obviously, you know, went around. But I remember I used to listen to him like on the road to my games in the bus, and it would get me in this like, I don't know, this vibe or this mood, this something. I don't know. And, you know, I didn't have the whole thing of like, you know, the same connection that you guys are seeing, probably because I'm not into like music that much, I guess. But like, you know, there's certain songs and musics and certain artists, I guess, that have certain vibes to their songs. And I remember that it was just that. And I kept listening it, you know, nonstop on the road to my games. I remember like it was yesterday. And, yeah, it's
I think we all kind of have like those core memories of listening to his music. Like we could always pinpoint either one of his songs or something to a memory that we had growing up.
Yep.
And just to touch on it really quick, like that was such a cool like era of music of like downloading songs, putting it on your iPod, like figuring out like, what songs you wanted to
LimeWire.
Oh my God.
No pirates.
That was the best though. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I remember I don't know if it was with you. I remember shout out to someone that we went to high school with, but I remember skipping school for a lot of his releases, like knowing that music was coming out and like we had to skip school so we could like listen to it and download it to put on our iPods.
Were you guys the types to go to like you know, the CD stores, like, you know, HMV?
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Me personally.
Was it that time? It was.
There was CDs. Yeah, it was CDs. It was a little release, but I remember, I think Macadelic came out, and that was in 2012. And after school, I went straight to like HMV or HMV, and you know, bought three CDs. You know, just I wanted one to open, one to listen to, and one to keep as a memory. And I still have to this day all my CDs and everything.
Oh my God,
yeah,
that's so sick.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me more in detail because I'm stuck on this. You know, you started the fan page, and then, you know, it kind of got suspended or deleted or whatever. You kind of introduced him to, I guess, the music of Mac Miller.
No.
How did it start though? The page, the Mac Miller Memoir. Like, how did that come about? Did you just like you send him a message or he send you a message like, oh, we should start this? Or like, how did that start?
That's a good question. I don't remember who messaged who, but I think it was a very like parallel conversation where we were aligning towards the same thing. Like we wanted to keep his legacy alive and, you know, remember him for who he was and what he did in the industry, you know, how he helped many people fight through depression, or, you know, just keep his legacy alive. And we aligned with this, and we decided to, you know, Pittsburgh is definitely the place to be. It's his hometown, Blue Slide Park. It's just so fitting. So it was just like everything just fell into place, and we were like, yeah, let's just bring the community out there and celebrate his life once a year.
That's amazing.
Yeah, at the time, I think Mark was the biggest Mac fan that I knew. So like hearing of his passing, obviously it took a toll on me because it was one of the only artists that I grew up with, like listening to. But the first thing that I thought of when I found out the news was him, because he was like the biggest fan that I knew. So after checking in on him to make sure, like, did you hear the news? Like how are you feeling about it? I remember like immediately my thoughts went to like, what can we do to like, again, because we were already kind of, I guess, closely enmeshed with the community that was already built on Twitter and social media. So reaching out to a lot of people on Twitter, kind of keeping the conversation going, like how's everybody doing? We wanted a way to keep that conversation going and not let it just fade away. And then, like I said, reaching out to him, knowing he was the biggest fan, like it just made sense instantly. Like everything just clicked. So, yeah, we started, I think, within the like that week or a couple days post the passing. And yeah, I mean, it started off slow, but just being able to reach out to anybody that we could in the community to just like, how you guys doing? Like checking in, kind of keeping the conversation going. Let's talk about the happy memories that, you know, that we've experienced. And it was incredible to see how many people had the same mindset as us.
Really?
Where it wasn't any weird conversation. It wasn't like, you know, everyone had a story to share of how his music either touched them or saved their lives, and it was cool to be kind of a platform, or I guess an arena to share that and kind of spread the news so more people could relate.
Yeah.
And that even to this day is one of like the biggest things for us, that when we get those stories shared to us, or like even people that always comment on our posts like, oh, Mac's music saved my life, or sharing those kind of stories, it just brings us back to like that day of like, we're just a giant community. Like everyone's in it together. And again, that's kind of why it just made sense to start it off, because that's what we wanted it to be.
Where did you guys see the news when it happened?
I remember exactly where I was.
For sure.
I was at the gym with my brother, and it like I saw it on my phone, and I didn't hear the news. I got like several texts of my friends like, "Are you okay?" Like, I didn't know. I was working out.
I mean, they know you're a huge fan.
Yeah, you know. So I mean, it struck to me, and it was just like I had to take a moment, like it just taking it in, like, man, I'm not gonna get new music, or, you know, you have all these thoughts, and like someone you grew up listening to that like
you attached to a lot.
I attached myself to him, you know. So it's just him and his music, and it was just it was a heavy time for me. It was you know, my grandmother had just passed away, so for me it was just like a big vicious cycle of like emotions running through me. And at the time of my grandmother's passing, I used Mac's music as an outlet, so it was just like cutting the bridge between those two. So it was really hard for me. But yeah, I remember where I was and at what time of the day it was. And I remember on the drive home, I started bawling my eyes out. I've never cried for like a celebrity death ever. It never affected me that way. So it was just, yeah.
Yeah, I think I found out too through just like people spamming me. Like, did you hear the news? Like did you see like how you whatever?
Because it must have hit like really hard in terms of like artists or music. Like,
yeah.
Because he was pretty popular like at that time, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I knew who he was. So it must have hit hard, like the whole community, you know, the whole, what do you call it, whole music scene, or... It's
a tough conversation to kind of bring up, especially lately with how many artists are passing away due to, you know, the things that they're dealing with. Not to get into details, but I remember getting a bunch of texts of people just asking me like, did you see the news? Like how, what do you think? Like, are you okay? And I didn't believe it at first, because, like, you know, growing up, you don't believe things on the internet. People are making fake pictures every other day, and, like, seeing a news headline of, like, Mac Miller, whatever,
yeah.
I didn't believe it. So the first thing I did is I was checking Google. Like, I searched his name, and, like, all the articles were coming up. And I remember just, like, sitting at my desk in my room, and just, like, I had to lean back for a minute to kind of, like, process what I just saw.
In terms of it being real.
Yeah, and then like Mark said, it was the first time that any passing of a celebrity or an artist really kind of like felt, again, because we grew up with them, so it felt like I knew him personally. And it was the first time where a passing like that really, like, I felt the loss that I which was weird because, like, for a celebrity or an artist that you listen to, you've never met them, you don't know them personally, like, it's not someone that you interact with. Yeah. So to feel that kind of loss and that kind of, like, that feeling in you, it was weird. I've never felt it before, and I remember questioning myself, like, why is this hitting me so hard? Like, I don't know the guy.
Exactly.
Like, so, and I think that was kind of the first time that, again, you know, feeling that for an artist where it just clicked, where I was like, there was something more than the music. So, and I think that's what a lot of people relate to too, is just, again, growing up with him, you felt like you knew him. So, yeah, it wasn't easy by any means, but it was shocking, I think, for everybody.
For sure. Like, oh my God. Oh, I can't imagine that. Like, even the people close to him, like, especially like you guys, you know, like you said, you didn't kind of know him personally or in person. So imagine, and you got that effect. So imagine people like in
his family,
in his surroundings, like, I don't know, a manager or a, I don't know, like, you know, his entourage of people. Imagine what they must have felt, or like if he was able to have an impact on people in a way where he never either met them or had a conversation with them or didn't even know them personally on a daily basis. Imagine the people in his close entourage. Like, you can't imagine. Like, that's so... And just the music part, knowing that there's, like you said, you know, you said, I can't remember what you said before, but like you were like thinking that there wasn't going to be other songs or something like that.
Yeah, like a future release.
Future releases. Like, thinking of all those things. Like, imagine the people super close, or not close, but just like, it's something else. And like you say, like, there's so many like hoaxes and, like, you know, fake stories or
TMZ, you know,
that type of stuff. So like, I totally get what you're saying about that. Like, you see it often. So the first view of, let's say, the headline, you're like, okay, is this fake? And then you're like, oh shit, it is fake. It is real. I mean, it is real. You're like, oh my God, like, did you guys, prior to him passing, prior to you guys starting the page and getting into this, did you ever meet him in person?
I did
prior?
A few times. I went to LA actually to see a show of his, and I got a meet and greet. I got twice in Montreal too, so I met him like 3-4 times. Genuine guy. At the third and fourth time, he remembered who I was. So like, he was very like, he took attention to his fans. He cared about his fan base, so it was really cool to be like,
yeah, he did it to a lot of fans too. Like, there's a lot of stories of like people doing multiple meet and greets and him remembering people. Like, it's really cool.
That's the best thing.
Like,
it adds in so much.
It adds value. It adds, you know,
incredible.
You know, so
you know how many people are probably, you know, in a position that he was in.
Absolutely.
That wouldn't, you know.
Number one, they don't care.
Exactly.
And I think that's why too. Like, to this day, why the community is so strong, because he was a very genuine person. I mean, like, I'm sure we'll get into this later on too, but like, in the music industry, I think like he's one of the most respected, loved artists in the industry. Like, he didn't have problems with anybody. No one had beef with him. There was no like weird stuff online. Like, he was just he was a genuine person. Like, every artist respected his music. So, and that's hard to find these days, because like, dude, it's either you're fake and people can see through that, or you're genuine, which is really hard to find.
Yeah.
So.
And a lot of people too, it's either the fakeness or they're controlled by someone above them to have a certain branding or, you know, say things or not say things. But that the authenticity part is the biggest thing. Yeah. For him to remember, like, come on, that's
as
insane.
A person, and also in his music, because like the way I think we all connected so much with his music was, you know, in good times, bad times, he would talk about it in his music. He wasn't scared to voice how he was feeling or when he was feeling, so it was just like very relatable to everyone. You're going through good times, you're going through bad times, talk about it. And that's what he was doing through his music, and it was just it was beautiful, man.
God, that's nice. So you never met him prior, huh?
I never got to meet him, which was crazy. I remember, and this is a funny story, he did a show close to Montreal. He did it in Laval, which was a very weird, it was like a small festival. You remember that? Mercy. And the funny thing is again, because I have a social networking background where I was really good at like making connections. Yep. I remember finessing our way for both of us, because he still had that Mac Miller page, where I wrote into the festival and I was pretending to be a news outlet through his page. And I was like, we run this Mac Miller page and we want to get content for, you know, our Twitter or whatever. And we ended up getting media passes which again, the finesse way. But that was probably the closest that I've gotten. And that was probably one of the coolest experiences that kind of started off everything, because like, again, getting to be up close and personal. Yeah. And spoiler alert, we didn't take any pictures, but
it was hilarious. Media passes with 2 iPhones. Just everyone has the big cameras with 2 kids. Like,
yeah,
it was good. It was good.
Yeah. It was cool for us though. We were younger, we were geeking out because like, again, we're looking at it like one of our idols on stage, and it was just a cool experience. So like, again, getting to see that rawness to him, that real kind of person. Meeting some of the guys that were in his crew too, who were, to this day we're friends with now, but like being able to meet them and have conversations with them because we got to be so close to the stage and all that was a cool experience.
Oh, how it's crazy how if it was now, you wouldn't have to finesse your way, right?
Yeah. Times have changed,
but you got to do those things too, and it's good that you did that. And Laval, out of all places.
I know, it was a very, I don't understand to this day why it was there. But
it happened 1 year. It was a 1 year festival and never happened again.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah,
That's
I don't
strange.
know. I think it was an opening of something, or I don't know why. I think the headliner was a country band or something, if I'm not mistaken.
Also, he was under.
Yeah, it was a weird, like, smaller version of a festival. It was like a mix up of artists, and he ended up being on it, which is really cool. So right beside our home.
It was right beside the Montmorency. In Laval.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe it was like the opening of a renovation, or I don't know. It was right across where the school is.
Close to Place Belle.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's
where it was.
It was probably
probably.
Oh wow. No, it's not a bad spot, but it's funny.
It's random. Yeah,
it's random.
It's really weird how things come full circle, but also just how that worked out. Like, of all places, why was it so close to home, and why was he on the roster? Like, it was cool.
How did you guys find out he was going there? I guess it was
probably on like an announcement.
Yeah.
It was probably the only tour date for the year, I think, for our city. So
it was a random. Yeah, he wasn't on tour or anything, and it was just like a random concert in Laval. It's like, we're gonna go.
Yeah.
100%. It was probably not that expensive.
We didn't pay.
We didn't know.
Oh my gosh! Finesse, the finesse part.
We had tickets and we gave it to our friends because we bought tickets and then we got media passes. So we were like, okay.
To anyone listening, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. So.
Yeah.
But I don't recommend doing that now. But I mean, it worked. It worked. Yeah. It worked.
Did you? They're gonna get a message. Did you get this from Cody?
Yeah.
10 years too late. So where's the content that you guys were supposed to take?
To be continued.
Yeah. You were saying before, like, you were in your car, and you started just crying about the news and how you probably started thinking more, and you were like, I don't usually think. It's the first feeling like that towards like a celebrity or an idol, and it's crazy that you say that because I don't mean to sound like, I guess weird, but like, not weird, but like I'm not the type to either like to have idols or people I look up to and like, looked up. For me, it's weird because I always think like, oh, that person has 2 eyes. It's just
it's a human. Yeah.
It's a human. I'm not one to like, be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm not like that. Maybe for some, but it's like to go to that extent where you're saying like, it was pretty much only that person that you have this idol feel. It must have hit pretty hard prior to him, like how he impacted people. That's I'm just thinking of it because for me, like, I don't know, I don't have like a
I don't really have that for anybody else now. And I think, I don't want to speak for him, but I think the reason why we had that connection with him was because we didn't see him as a celebrity. Like, it really felt like we knew him through his music. So it was almost like finding out that one of our friends passed away. Like, it was a very weird personal connection, which, again, it's hard to kind of make sense of.
Yeah.
But I think that's why he was the only person who we had that connection with.
Which makes sense. And you start thinking like, oh my God, my friend is not there physically. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Oh my God.
And in general, for myself, I'm not an emotional person. Like I don't cry. I cried when my grandmother passed. Big statements in my life. Yeah. But in general, I'm trying to find my soft side now. Trying to ease into it.
It's good.
It's okay to cry, man.
Yeah. And especially for those things.
Yeah,
Especially for those things, like
what are you trying to prove holding everything in? Like,
Exactly. And everybody goes, I guess, through something.
Yeah,
like that,
through the
process,
motions,
blah, blah, blah.
for sure.
So I want to speak about the annual celebration.
Yeah.
Now you guys just did the 5th annual
Celebration of Mac.
Celebration of Mac, the 5th annual one, which is crazy because I remember seeing you guys posting about it the first year and seeing all the posts about it, and it's crazy that 5 years later, we're going into the 6th, but 5 years later, there's already like 5 events, 5 celebration of Mac. So 5 celebrations of Mac that are checked and done. How did that idea come? I know before you were mentioning you went to
I was going to Pittsburgh regardless to see him live in Pittsburgh, and it was just like an opportunity for all the fans that were already going to the concert in Pittsburgh to just meet up and be together and not feel alone. Whether you're going through everything, it was just like a come together moment. And I think it's in the same optic as our overall what we're trying to do, creating a community that we're here for one another. You don't have to go through this alone. If you need someone to talk to, we're always here to listen. And this community built itself off of that, so it started off as that. I think we had a bit less than 100 people, 75 people that showed up to the first one, and then moved forward to 150 the year after, 400 the year after that one, and now we're in 2 cities doing over 2,000 people. So it's growing bigger every year.
I think the important kind of transition for us too is when it first started, it was more of like a memorial thing, and we kind of transitioned into like a celebration of life aspect of it, so that we're kind of more getting together to celebrate his music, celebrate his legacy and his life, instead of necessarily mourning his loss, which I think kind of touches more on like the saddened emotions.
Yes, I totally agree with that.
And it was something that was really kind of aligned with the family too. They wanted to kind of keep it towards that direction, which I think is the right thing to do. Yeah. So, and I think that's also giving us more of the freedom now to expand and do what we want to do, because we have more ideas to make it more of a immersive experience, a more fun experience for people attending. So it's not,
absolutely,
So it's not so much as like, show up, we're all gonna cry together. Like, we had those moments still, which is really nice to kind of like bond together. But it's also like, let's remember him for what he was, a really dope artist, and let's just celebrate that.
Wow, that's good. It's amazing. Like, I love. I keep saying it because and I even told you guys before we recorded, but for me, I find it crazy and just incredible because you essentially started something and it grew into something. And I know before you had mentioned before when we weren't recording, you mentioned the word you're kind of you're essentially starting from ground zero, but not, because you're use the word piggybacking off of someone, I guess, who had reach and exposure, but and stuff. But nonetheless, I wouldn't take away the work and the credit of what you guys because it's super difficult. That's why I'm saying that it's super difficult. Yeah, it takes a lot of consistency, like we were saying before, commitment, organization, logistics. You mentioned before, especially now, probably, or more so in the last couple of years, or even more than that, because even 100 people or so is a lot. For me, it's so impressive, and I find it cool too, because the root of everything, the foundation of everything, is something that you guys enjoy. Yeah. And regardless of all of what it is on the outside, you do it because you just
we want to do it.
You like it. It's attached to you from the get-go. For me, those are the most. It's the best things. It's not just you were sitting at a table and being oh, what can we start? Oh, let's pick this. There's more to it. So for me, it's I don't know. I love seeing those things and hearing those things, and imagine in the next 5 years. And,
who knows, man?
Oh, and just the whole interactive community experience, the vision that you guys have. Yeah. That's the best. And I named the podcast the TeamMADE Podcast because for me it's all about that teammate approach, that community approach, how every person can help one another. team, you know, together everyone achieves more, and that's why I kind of want to started this too. So the fact that you guys, you know, have a vision of like, you know, we want to bring people together, celebrate this person who had a crazy impact and still does, you know, because it continues. We're gonna celebrate all of this, and then, you know, you mentioned his parents, you know, having the same type of vision in terms of celebrating, and I like that. I love seeing things like that, hearing about it, seeing where it is now. I remember, I think it was the first year. I think it was the first year, probably a couple two. I remember seeing a video, and it was taken on a phone, I think, of, I think it was the first year. Everyone at like the park, the Blue Slide Park.
I went viral, right?
It was everyone singing together with like
yeah. That was in 2019, I believe.
Yeah, 2019.
So that was the second year.
I think so.
Yeah.
Second or third. It was one of them.
So I remember seeing that, and I'm like, you know how crazy that is?
Yeah.
For everyone to gather around, like imagine, like you being him, or him, you know, being there and seeing everyone. And, no, like that's crazy.
I mean, I got goosebumps when it happened.
That's why I did this. I'm getting so now. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
I think what was really cool too was like that did go viral. Like I think every music blog picked it up, and seeing all the comments, it was just nothing but love, like unison, which again you don't really find that in the music industry. But everybody had something nice to say. Everyone found it so touching, and like that's all we wanted to do. So it was really cool.
And it's crazy, and it's not that's not just the music industry either. That's every single industry where there's always like those haters, or there's always going to be those type of people, no matter where, no matter what. But for it to not pop out, no one pop up in terms of like the whole negativity, and how could you also for something like that? You would have to be really shitty.
I mean, there's definitely a handful of people that still do, which we don't obviously give any attention to. But I mean, the majority is.
It doesn't outweigh the negatives, you know. Like even for me, like every time we do our events, I get like at least 1 or 2 comments of like, "Thank you guys so much for doing this. It means the world to me." And like I wait all year for this moment, and just that one person telling me this, I made a difference in that person's life, and it's just like such a great feeling as an individual. You know, you're making all together. They're making this happen because again, me and him, let's throw an event. No one shows up, we have no event. So it's the community itself that when they come, they bring those positive vibes surrounding us, and it's just like it's a very heartwarming moment.
You guys are driving the boat,
in
other words.
We're just setting it up, and
making sure the you know, I find it it's cool. I love it. I love seeing that, because like I've been in the, you know, the social media, or the, I guess, building something type thing where it takes other people, I guess. So to see that is cool, and it's also fun to see how it's still there 5 years later, and you guys are still active on it. Because that's difficult to do, like we were saying before. Like that's super difficult to do.
And this year we expanded to LA. We added another city, so that's definitely like something out of our bucket list that we have to check. Also, you know, like first time, and the outcome was amazing.
Blew our expectations. So.
We're expecting 400 people. There's 1,100 that showed up. So you know, like it's crazy.
And he was saying like close to 2K. So
total
for all the events. Like
for all the events. You're right.
Yeah.
That's great.
2,000. It's a concert.
Exactly.
It's a concert.
And I think, I don't know if it was the venue themselves who said it, or attendees, or one of our friends, but someone mentioned that like the vibe that you get at these events, you can't experience through video. And people were saying that like you really have to go to experience it, because it's genuinely like you're at his concert without him being there. Like everyone's cheering, everyone's jumping together, singing his songs, like everyone's turning up. And like to get that experience, and the artist isn't even in the room with you. I don't know who else does it like that, again, because again, not to knock anyone else's fan base, but like that's really special. Like that's cool.
Yes.
And anybody, like artist-wise, who can touch your fans like that, who could have that impact in their lives, is insane. And that's why, like, it's cool that what we do, again, nothing. I don't like to think of like what we do as anything spectacular or special or like unique.
I do though.
Thank you.
I do, but
but in that sense of like, again, it's just everyone has that experience together. Everyone's having fun. It's a cool thing to be a part of.
I'm gonna have to come to one day.
You have to, absolutely. You have to.
to just
You'd have a good time.
that.
Honestly,
Yeah.
even if you're not like that much of a fan of his music, being there, you're gonna enjoy it.
Oh, we've had a ton of people come up to us to say like we've never really listened to Mac like that.
Yeah.
We're never huge fans, but like being here with everybody really changed our outlook on things. Like that's a cool thing to like for people to tell us.
Yeah. And it probably also like just solidified everything about like
Yeah.
the whole this project, just Mac Miller.
Yeah.
Because now you're in the trenches, you know, you're
Yeah.
in it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to come one day.
Yeah,
Just
for sure.
experience
You have
that.
For sure.
Oh
Definitely.
my god.
No.
Why not?
Crazy.
What's stopping you?
Well, I might
Like,
have to finesse myself to get some media
There
passes.
you go. There you go. Full circle.
we'll
you
see.
have-
We'll ask the boss.
You have the personal invite on the table now on camera, so you have to.
Okay. Okay, probably not that you guys. Well, I don't know what months it would be, but yeah, I would. That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
I'd love that.
Absolutely.
I'd love it. So before, you were just mentioned about some people know his music, some people don't. I knew his music. Obviously, I still do.
Yeah.
I was gonna save this question for later. Because it kind of puts you on the spot because you don't know the question prior to me asking.
I
and
feel
you
like
can
I
take
already
your
know where
time.
this is going.
So,
It's a pretty standard question that we get pretty often if it's what I'm thinking.
now you're putting me on like a pressure.
Now you're sweating.
Yeah. I've been sweating since before, but so among all his songs and albums.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go
Do
ahead.
you want to repeat the question to me?
Yeah. Do you have a favorite project or what song touches you the most? Like what memory do you have?
It's close to that, but it's even more specific. So it's,
Okay.
Oh no.
and I'm going to ask it for each person.
Yeah.
You could probably say both at the same time or one before the other. For the rest of your lives now, if you were to have to pick one song to listen to the rest of your lives, what would that song be? And you could take the time to think, because I know
Clarity.
that's the name of the song.
100%. To this day.
Yeah.
To this day. That's my go-to song.
Tell me why. Is it just the vibe,
It's-
lyrics?
Honestly, it's a mix of everything. That project itself had such a Beatles influence, and Beatles are my personal band. I grew up because of my father listening to the Beatles, so like Macadelic was very psychedelic project that like intertwines with the Beatles. So that entire project for me is my favorite piece of art. But Macadelic, it was just like Clarity. Sorry, it's that song where it's like it's not heavy. You could just listen to it. It breathes. It flows, and the lyrics are really meaningful too. So for me, it's just that song since 2012 has been my favorite song. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
To this
So that would be the one on the.
If
solo
I'm on an
playlist.
island, I have one song. I'm listening to that song for the rest of my life.
Do you have one, Cody? Did you ever? I know,
It's
but
tough. I don't think I do, but if I had to choose one,
Well, you really love. Sorry, but you really love music, like
Yeah.
at the foundation of everything.
Yeah, so I
imagine
think
it's
with
tough.
it's hard for me to pick a single song regardless because it's just there's so many things that influence my taste, I guess. If I had to pick one, I'd probably say like Best Day Ever or like Good Evening, which is one of his earlier songs. And the reason being, I think, especially with Best Day Ever, it was one of like the first songs that like you could always pin back to a memory or like me watching the music video of where I was at that point, where I was in my life.
Yeah.
It's one of those two probably.
When you listen to that song Clarity, what reaction do you have to it when you listen to it? Does
I get a
put
mix
you-
of emotions. I get everything. It's
so
like
emotions meaning sadness, smiling. All of
yeah,
it?
because it's a very sad song, but it brings me joy. It's like
see.
you see through the light. It's clarity. It's I mean
That's a really deep answer. That's like a
Yeah, I like
music as a music lover answer. To
Yeah.
find like the light in like even the sad songs, like there's
Yeah.
always depth to that.
That's why I was kind of asking
Yeah.
this. I wanted to see what type of song it was, and if I were to listen to it and the vibe it goes in my ears and brain, maybe I'm going to take it differently. So
Yeah.
that's the most interesting.
And even the music video is really interesting. It's very artsy, very artistic. You have like some ballerina. I don't want to say ballerina. I don't know what kind of dance it is, but it's like
Soft. I guess.
yeah, it's like a
Artistic.
ballet type of thing, and they're hanging on the ropes and they're like spinning. It's very beautiful. It's a very
Really?
beautiful made music video, and the music is just. I mean, I get goosebumps still talking about it. I mean, for me, it's definitely that one song that's just gonna stick with me for the rest of my life.
And you? I'm curious. I'm curious to ask this. What, like, when you listen to that song, or just even, when you listen to his songs overall, like, That's a tough question, but you probably get just a mixture of things, and also I guess in what state you're in, you'll probably refer
I think
to this song.
The beauty of his music is he truly has a project for everything. Like there's an album that could be specific for if you're going through heartbreak, or an album specific if you just want to turn up for the weekend. For this specific song, like Best Day Ever, it's just like it's an influx of like happiness and also sadness, because I remember listening to that song in high school, I was going through certain things, or just it's tough. It is truly, like I said, a mixture of things, but it brings back, especially like in the beginning of the video of him like running through the field, like that childness, like joy in him, like that's what kind of brings over me.
Okay, so we'll pause it. We'll come back, because I want to say something, and it's linked directly to this, and I took the simplest one that caught my eye. I'm going to tell you. Okay, we're good.
We're back.
We're back. Yeah, we're back. So like I was saying, you know, I'm someone very spiritual in the sense that, like, I looking at quotes, things in books, you know, different meanings to a lot of things, whether it's a form of visual or audio or something, just mainly because you get an idea of either who the person is or what the project is about, or whatever. And I fell on a Mac Miller quote, and I'm not too sure if it's on an album, like I told you, or where it's from, but 100%, well, I'm not going to say 100, I'm 99% sure it's from Mac Miller, because I did my research. And the reason why I took it is because, you know, he had such a big impact, and still has a big impact through his music and how he was as a person in terms of his authenticity, how grounded he was. That's the word I wanted to mention before. I think that describes him really good in terms of being grounded and just authentic and raw, and not seeing himself over anyone. And I think that's a huge part of probably a lot of his success, probably too, or how he branded himself in a way, without even, you know, creating something fake. And, you know, I had asked you what the song Clarity brings to you, and you responded. I asked you what your song brought to you, and I'm going to quote a Mac Miller quote. It's, "No matter where life takes me, find me with a smile." So simple.
Pursuit to be happy, always laughing like a child.
Exactly. It's true.
That's
though.
crazy.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I didn't even think. I'm getting goosebumps, bro. It's so simple as a quote, but like just that, reading it, and
has meaning to it.
Has meaning to it, and it's the one that kept standing out because of how simple it was, how impactful it is, not only for anybody, and you know, I just wanted to share that quote just because you could kind of tell what type of person, what type of music he was putting out. And, you know, yes, okay, there's maybe songs that, you know, intertwine with sadness or the emotions, but that doesn't take the smile and happiness and the fun out of, you know, his music or things that he had in mind. So, yeah, I wanted to share that quote, and it's crazy how I said that quote.
Yeah.
And you just said that because, you know...
Yeah, because that lyric's part of Best Day Ever. That's the song that I chose.
Really?
Yeah.
That's even crazier. I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all. Oh, yeah, I see Best Day Ever now. Oh, yeah. I didn't know. So sometimes, I didn't think of the albums.
It doesn't process,
It doesn't process. And so for me, as like more of an outsider... You know, I'm looking at this quote and attaching him to it, and I'm like, I get a feel of, you know, what he was shooting for, what he stood for, and what he kind of, when he woke up each day, what his, I guess, mission statement was, and what he really held on to was that. And I think, you know, I'm going to say it again, no matter where life takes me, find me with a smile. And I think just that, no matter what situation you're in, and, you know, with what you guys are doing to celebrate his success, his life, his entourage, you know, that brings a lot of smile to a lot of people, which is, again, like the most impactful thing for anyone. And it's crazy because, like, you know, him looking down and seeing these two random people just create this, I don't know what you would call it, but I'm not going to say page, but create this
community.
community or
just like took people together, just like
and create this
environment.
Imagine how he must feel, and I don't know. I just that quote stood out to me, and I had to share it. And based off of what you guys were saying about the songs, that's even crazier now. That's the song that you mentioned, and then everything that just happened prior to us coming back.
Yeah, like you mentioned too before, the authenticity and the rawness that he had in his music. You could really tell throughout any projects, like things that stand out to me with like Faces or like any of his other projects. He never shied away from speaking or putting into song what he was going through at that time. So if he was going through rough patches or he was going through really serious things, he wasn't afraid to put that into his music.
Yeah.
So I think that is something, again, that people kind of really related to. But having that kind of artist, that kind of, again, a lot of people considered him as a friend that could speak on the emotions that you have, that some people just don't have the voice to kind of, put out or speak to someone else. Being able to have that in music form was really raw. And, again, looking back at certain projects that I don't want to mention specifics, but even for myself in certain periods of my life where, sometimes you don't even know what you're going through or how to put it into words, but listening to the song, you're like, he gets it. So that's why, like, he literally has a song for everything. He has a project for every kind of emotion, but there's always something that people can, like, tie into a certain, like, point in their life.
That's so interesting. Just music itself. Imagine a life without music.
Or
don't.
I don't
I'm
know.
starting to sweat right now.
Yeah.
I can't
remember when I was thinking of that. I was thinking about that. I can't remember what I was doing. Anyways, I can't remember what the scenario was, but I was like, imagine no music.
You take away that the one thing in life that everyone has in common.
Yeah.
Whether like different genres, yes, but like everyone listens to music at some point.
Yeah.
And
music's a beautiful thing, man. Like even
agreed.
As someone who has a background in music, but being able to pick any song and everybody in the room could interpret it differently or have a different emotion attached to it, it's beautiful.
Yeah, like I was saying before, like I could listen to that song Clarity, Mark have certain feelings about it or certain, feelings about it. I could listen to it and have completely different and think about different things in my head and my life.
That's what's beautiful about it.
It's the best. It's the best. Okay, so this is a cool question. And you could include him in it, Mac Miller, obviously. Living or dead, you get 3 invite-only tickets. You send to people to have dinner with you. Who are these people? Obviously, we know who's going to be there, probably. Right?
Yeah.
You could say no, and it's fine because,
So are we talking about only music artists or
anyone?
Anyone. Oof. Okay.
And you could anyone, whether it's your family, whether it's your.
I would put my grandmother in there.
Nice.
That's fair.
I would go back to have a dinner with my grandmother. Yeah.
Nice.
She raised me like her son. So for me, I didn't grow up with a mother. She passed away when I was super young, so she took on that role. So for me, it's a big missing piece in my life right now. So definitely would have her at the table. I think she'd get along with Mac too. So it's
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, she was cool. And probably.
And you're sending these invites, you're calling them. It's 3 tickets, so 6 in total. 3 for you, 3 for you.
So is it like a guarantee they're showing up, or they
Guaranteed.
okay?
They're showing up
just in case they decline.
They're showing up.
Okay, got it.
And Paul McCartney from the Beatles.
Ooh.
Still alive, but
okay.
Yeah,
Sir
living
Paul
or dead.
McCartney. Sir Paul. Sorry.
Fair.
Living or dead.
Yeah, definitely.
So your grandmother,
Yeah. Mac
Miller, and Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
That's the dinner. And you're there, Mark.
I'm there. That'd be a sick dinner.
Crazy, right?
Nice
what a
little-
podcast that would be. Oh, wow. Cody? And you don't need to put Mac Miller in there too, and that's fine, and the reason why I'm saying that is because people might think like, oh, he's not putting him in there, but look at what you guys are doing together. So I'm just being living or dead. It could be 3 friends. It could be whatever. What would that just dinner be that,
That's a really tough question because artists alone is tough enough, but to kind of include anybody is tough. And Mark had a pretty deep answer too, so it's kind of hard to match that.
Yeah.
I think 1 seat would go to Mac just to have a conversation, to be like, look at what's going on now.
Yeah.
Like, look at the impact you left, and to kind of have a conversation about that would be cool. The second seat, I don't know. I think it would have to be like a Steve Jobs or like an Elon Musk. just to get like the business kind of like pick their brains a little bit.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I was just about to say that's super interesting because it's so like opposite.
I think if you only get 3 seats, it's kind of cool to like expand or like be a diverse selection of people so that everyone can share their backgrounds and kind of get something out of it.
Yeah. Well, look, Mac Miller and Mark's grandmother. I'm not saying anything.
That would be a pretty interesting conversation.
It's not Mac Miller style, but I'm assuming it's different.
She did like some of his music, so.
Oh, she listened. Wow.
No
way.
She used to buy like when I was a kid, for tickets and everything. She used to like. I used to tell her like, "Oh, he's coming." He's like, "Oh, I'll buy your tickets." Like, go. Yeah. So. Yeah, it was. She was great. She was great.
Maybe we should have our like dinner parties together and just bring them all
together.
One giant table.
You're missing a person though.
I am missing a person.
My grandma.
Would it be anyone in your family? Would it be a friend? You can't invite Mark, obviously.
It's okay. I don't want to be there.
I would. Yeah, I'm tired of Mark. I would love to have someone from my family there, but I feel like I wouldn't be able to choose, and I feel like I would want either all of them there together, or if I were to pick, one parent, I would want them both there. But to leave them out if I had to, maybe like a present day artist like Drake, or I don't know, it's tough to say. I'm trying to think of other industries too, but
sports, philosophers.
Sports is good. Philosophers. Oh, this just got a lot deeper.
Engineers.
Wow.
Would be, obviously business people. You have, I think, that person.
Maybe get really deep and go into like a Nostradamus. Or like
crazy.
a
That'd be
Leonardo da
crazy.
Vinci.
You could.
That'd be crazy.
Galileo.
Wow. Elon Musk with Nostradamus? Wow.
And Mac Miller's there.
Just.
And he's giving you guys like a little private, song, the best day ever.
Wow.
That'd be sick. I'm in.
So that'd be your third?
That's a deep question. I think, let's go back to like a Nostradamus or like a Leonardo da Vinci, just to kind of spice it up.
And you know why I'm asking that is because...
You have him here.
Come on in.
Welcome.
Well, look, I wasn't supposed to actually say this, but my next podcast is actually Elon Musk and
Wow. Whoa. Wow.
But one day, you never know.
You never know.
We're the bridge because we're just
Joe Rogan coming.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'd have to go to his, but I don't think he'd come here. Maybe. I know he does saunas, so
he does.
Get interesting.
I think he would like that.
Yeah.
He's a big workout guy.
Yeah, workouts, saunas, cold plunge.
UFC.
That'd be so cool. So the reason why I wanted to ask that is because first, it always brings out interesting answers, and you come to find out kind of who this person is and who this person is.
Yeah.
Obviously not entirely, but you get an idea.
Yeah.
You get an idea of like. You get an idea. Mm-hmm. If I were to say, 3 sports people, you kind of get what type of person I am in a way, what I like.
You like sports.
I like, exactly. I'm a sports geek, So that's why so interesting. And then
okay, so let me ask you a question then. Let's turn the table. So who's your favorite, let's say, athlete of all time?
Only one.
Only one.
I would have said a different answer 15 years ago because I was younger, and it would have been a hockey player because I was playing hockey.
Right.
I don't think I would have that same answer right now. That one, that selective is very
It is
difficult.
tough.
Favorite athlete is obviously...
Or let's narrow it down. Let's say favorite...
Okay, so I have 3 that are in there. There's George St. Pierre.
Okay.
Alexander Ovechkin.
Okay.
And Sidney Crosby.
Fair. Okay.
And the reason why I'm saying 15 years it would have been different is because after I stopped playing hockey when I was like 19, for me it was like I'm closing that door. I'm not listening to hockey anymore. I'm not paying attention to it. I'm not playing it. I close that door because if I look at it,
it always draws you back in.
Yeah, it draws me back. I start thinking blah blah blah. Now, or after that, up until now, I got into MMA and UFC when I was like in 2007, 2008 or something. Back when it was like UFC 93, UFC 80, like very, very early UFCs, even before that. And then obviously George St. Pierre. up until this day is because I like his discipline. I like his discipline too after his sports career. When I was younger, I looked up to Alexander Ovechkin, and that was my like player. And I think it's because I got attached to his branding more than anything else. Not his style of play, but his branding. The way he, as a young kid, you're seeing the way he dresses himself on the ice, his yellow laces, that tinted visor.
It was so different.
Didn't you have a picture with him?
Yeah.
You should met him, just pop it up like right here.
Right here, okay. And yes, I'm 12 years old, not 7. I had to. I met him. That was crazy. That was insane. And that was his rookie year, which was
even crazier.
Where'd you meet him?
I met him at the Bell Center after his practice. So my really good friend was, I don't know if I should say his name.
Okay, just George.
Yeah.
John.
Fred.
Yeah. Well,
let me know if I hit it. Alex.
You guys are probably going to know out of the first name, Stefan.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. Played hockey with him.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Okay.
So he was my childhood friend, and I'm not saying his name. Just we're on good terms. It's because I don't know if he wants his name out there or not. But that was my childhood friend. And then he called me up the night before or the day before at like later at night, and he's like, oh, and just like very casual. And I think because him coming from the family he is, I guess he's used to that entourage.
Right.
As a child and everything growing up. I get the call and he tells me, he's like, oh, and just like super casual, he's like, oh, do you want to go tomorrow to meet Alexander Ovechkin? I'm like, what? Yeah, I guess. Like, how do you respond to that? It's weird. So yeah, we went the next day. We watched the Habs practice, then Washington Capitals, and then after that we went like in the hallway of the dressing room of the Caps. And he came out and we spoke. I was wearing his jersey. He signed my jersey. I had a rookie card that's still framed. So it's like framed inside. Nice. And it signed his rookie card. So he signed it. And it was like a blur. It
went quick, huh?
It went quick. Someone was saying a blur before recording. Someone mentioned a blur of how the events, blur,
how fast it goes.
How fast it goes.
Yeah.
And, prior to meeting him, I'm like, I'm going to say these things. I'm going to,
you plan it out. You plan it out.
Once you get into the moment, it's just a rush of adrenaline and everything's just gone.
Oh, yeah. And nothing of that happened.
Yeah.
I was just like, he's there. And I'm like super small, 12 years old, like super small. So yeah, that was interesting. But again, like, I had that moment, but I don't have that like, oh my god. Like, I kind of did have it, obviously, because I'm young and stuff. But I don't know. It's
okay. So
odd.
just for a conversation's sake, let's take George St. Pierre.
Yeah.
As your top athlete.
Yeah.
Now, would you rather have a dinner conversation with him?
Yeah.
Or take $500,000?
GSP. I saw that question from on Twitter by Andrew Tate. I saw that question because he kept retweeting something like that, and GSP. The reason why. And I don't want to come off to sound like, come on, you're not shooting 500K? Or any number. Well, okay, maybe not any number, but
20 million.
Like reasonable, like 500K makes sense. The reason why I think is because I have everything I need right now. I'm okay. Yeah. Me and my girlfriend tell each other this all the time. I'm good. Not good in terms of monetary, but like I'm good
you're just content. You're happy.
What else do you need more?
Yeah.
I flew in private jets. I drove Ferraris or I never owned any of this, for the record.
Yet.
It gets normal. It gets normal.
Yeah.
It really gets normal. And after you, like, say you come to taste a certain thing or a food, or you taste a certain experience for one like before tasting it, you're like, oh my god, this, and then you see a little red carpet here in front of the jet or whatever, and then there's food on your seat and table. The third time,
it's the same thing.
It becomes normal. It really becomes normal, and I've realized, and I'm not saying like I'm a multimillionaire, billionaire, but I kind of have the understanding that it becomes normal. Yeah. I taste a certain food for the first time, or a certain restaurant, or I go to a nice penthouse hotel or a nice restaurant. what more do you want? How many times it's not going to taste different?
No,
the experience
exactly.
is not going to be different.
Yeah.
And it just becomes normal. But, you know, that GSP conversation, I think, would bring me lifelong value.
Yeah.
And it would bring me different perspectives, because at 500K, yes, I could invest it, make more money to get more material things. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm eating fine. Like, I sleep well, you know, it's all good. Like, what else do I need?
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's different because it's not actually on the table.
Yeah.
That choice, it's not actually realistic. It's not there.
Yeah.
But I think I would have that dinner with him, because no recordings, completely off. What scene are we in? Are we actually having, you know, or where are we? Where are we? Are we, you know, at his house, at my house? Are we in a restaurant? And what that conversation is like, would I get to ask him? And it's because you learn these certain values from these high achievers, I call them, these high performance achievers, high performance individuals, like that. There's so much value behind that, and that could bring you $1 million and not 500K.
Absolutely.
If you're shooting for the monetary value, but they're like, not everyone becomes a world champion. Not everyone, you know, gets to the pinnacle or the apex of their craft. So that's the most interesting thing. If I offered you guys 500K or an actual dinner with Mac Miller, honestly, and it's tough because that money thing. Say you already, and I'm not saying you don't, but say you already had 20 million, or $1 million in your bank or whatever it is.
That conversation, me as a kid, like, I know obviously I was a kid, but I always said, like, I would love to go in the studio and just listen to him work in his element. Just being there in the environment, like that, I wouldn't take $1 million for it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like you're there with the person who's perfected his craft, like you just mentioned, and just take it in, see him work, see him in his element. I don't think there's a price on that.
I totally agree with that, and it's the experience like that you're not able to replicate.
Zero.
You'll go the first time, and the second time, like, it could be totally different, but a different experience.
Right.
Yeah.
The thing with like all the like, what's $500,000 gonna bring me? You know,
I could spend it in a day, then it's not there. But that experience stays forever.
See, I like to ask the question because it really does kind of show who the person is or what they're prioritizing. And to kind of, piggyback on what you just said, like, there is a lot of variables that go into it. Like, that's life-changing money for a lot of people. And you can't take that away from anyone who wants to take the money.
Exactly.
But on the other flip side of the coin, too, a lot of people say don't meet your idols. Because what happens if you need the money and you decide not to take it because you want the dinner, but then you meet your idol and they don't care about you, they don't care about the conversation, they're just there because they're getting paid. There's a lot of things that go into it. But kind of like what you were saying too about like the fast cars and living that kind of lifestyle with the jets and whatever, like Mark was saying, being able to get that experience of being in the studio with him. Like, I've been in studios with artists, I've met really like big people, I've done a lot of nice things like you have. Like you said, nothing will take away from that experience, but it does get old after a while. Like, it gets kind of normalized. Yeah. But my first experience in the studio, my first experience meeting certain people or being able to do things that most people can't do, that's something that money you can't exchange for. You don't get that every day. It's not an opportunity that many people get. And for me, any day of the week, I would rather take the experience and the money, even though that is life-changing money for a lot of people, especially myself. But money comes and goes. Those experiences don't. And that's just bottom line for me.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it's the experience, and it's also the feeling. And I don't know if that is linked to the word experience, but it's the feeling you get. Like, that
well, an experience gives you a feeling.
Yes.
It's parallel.
Exactly.
It goes hand in hand.
There you go. It goes hand in hand. But that feeling, like, you know when you feel something, that feeling like you felt it either meeting him or listening to a song, or that feeling of you reading the headline, or that feeling, that quick goosebump, a rush, emptiness, or I don't know, the thing, the blurriness.
You can't buy that.
You can't. And... yeah. So, and to speak about like, never meet your idols. Yeah. For me, and okay. So we'll use the word idol, but for me, like, I don't really have idols. Yeah. But I understand that word, and I think a lot of people are referring to the meaning of that to idol. But like, now that you're saying the thing, never meet your idols, because they won't turn out who you thought they were. I think that, and I don't know, because I'm not in it and I didn't experience it, but I don't know if once that would come into play, if that did occur, would that just bring me as much value? Because it just teaches me that
I think it does in the long run, because that kind of teaches you that everyone's human and that you have to take them for face value. It's not just because you have this idealistic, celebrity image of them that they're going to be some crazy cool person that's going to love everybody and they're so cool. But I've had that experience personally. A lot of close friends of mine have shared stories of meeting their idols, and it ruins the image that you have of them, for one. Like, for example, if you idolize and you look up to someone from childhood, and then you meet them and they're a complete asshole.
Yeah.
Not only does that ruin your perception of who you looked up to for so long, but it ruins your perception of, what did you think of people? Now, like, if someone else kind of fits that role, are they the same person? And you start to question a lot of different things. And I mean, look, not to take away, there's a lot of cool people out there. But
there's a lot of
there's a common line under the saying, don't meet your idols, for that reason. Or if you really do idolize someone, keep it as an outside basis, because sometimes when you meet them, it could ruin that.
I never thought of it like that too. That's the crazy thing. I never thought of it like that, and I never heard of that. Like,
I don't want to mention anyone in particular. There's one artist that I do love. I love his music. I love his stuff, but I've heard many stories of personal encounters that he is a complete asshole to a lot of people, and that did change my perspective on who he is as a person. But again, it's one of those things where I'm glad I didn't get to experience it, because it might have ruined his music for me. It might have ruined everything that I've ever kind of thought of him. But, knowing that too, it kind of reaffirms that, like, keep your idols or whoever you look up to in a certain degree apart from what you are doing in front of you.
That's so interesting. Again, I never heard of that. So, because now that you say it, like,
makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. It can actually turn out like that. If you actually do have dinner with that idol, that person, you're sitting across from him or her.
Yeah.
Imagine some people like actually do like those encounters that either friends or people that you knew have had. Imagine like them. And then all these years they're looking up to this person and they're like, oh shit, like kind of hate this.
Then
person.
You also start to doubt yourself, like, okay, well, I just gave up money to have this dinner and then I just got nothing out of it. So I should have took the money.
It's like a slap in the face. Yeah.
But I think the underlying of the question is, like, everyone always asks, I think it's like Jay-Z, like, would you rather have X amount of money or a dinner with Jay-Z? People always ask that because Jay-Z is like a mogul in the music industry. Yep. And for me, that's kind of what the question was about, is like having a dinner with a certain someone, you can gain so much from that conversation or that knowledge that you could reapply in places that you can't with money.
Yeah.
Like, you could have $500,000 and invest it and do whatever you want, thinking that you know how to do it, but having that knowledge, that expertise of talking to a George St. Pierre, who, like you said, is at the apex of his career, you can't get that with money.
Yeah.
That's not something you could buy. So that's why experiences for me will always outweigh kind of the monetary value, but to each their own.
Yeah, and it's to see the way they are too. Like, yes, you see the cover pages of, like, their belts, their trophies and stuff. But me, it's to see how this person is structured.
Yeah,
I'm all about like structure and habits and routine. I like those things. So me, it's to find out like how this person is, what their habits are, what their routine is, and how they perform and
how they stay focused.
Because everyone, no matter what level you are, you get distracted. You're not always motivated. Just all of those things. So for me, it's to like break down the person to see who this person is and how their structure is, and like you said before, we're all human.
Yeah.
So for me, that's the most interesting.
That's always been very interesting to me too. Like, being able to see the human behind the celebrity or the image is something that I find myself kind of looking through to try to see somebody. And I think it's cool too, because there's a lot of artists that I know who are like bigger named artists that I'm really close with. And it's weird sometimes where, like, let's say we go to a show and I bring a friend to the show and they have like this starstruck or like this fanboy kind of like, oh my God, like that's so cool. And I think it's just because I'm either, again, I hate talking about it because it makes me kind of seem conceited where I'm like used to it now. But to me, it's just like, they're just normal people. They're just human beings. They're just artists that are, coworkers or whatever you want to call it. Which I completely understand the other aspect of, like, oh my God, that's a fan. Like that's crazy. They're in front of me.
Yeah.
But it's cool being able to see the difference, because like the person beside me could be thinking about, oh my God, this person's so cool. The trophies, the accolades. And I'm over here thinking, like, I just had a conversation with them last night. Like, what'd you have for breakfast? Like that polarity of like being human, but also being looked at as like an icon it's such a weird thing to most people because usually you fall on one side or the other. Yeah. It's very hard to see both.
You're right.
And for the general population, I think most of them would be fans or like, you know, you look at someone who's on top of their game like Drake. Like, it's hard to look at Drake and be like, I wonder what he did this morning. Like, when did he brush his teeth? But most people are seeing Drake like he has a $100-something million house. He's always on, you know, jets or his plane. He's doing this, he's doing that. Like, it's hard to kind of bridge that gap for a lot of people.
Yeah. Especially big like that.
Yeah. I think the bigger you get, the harder it is to kind of...
It goes further, I think, right? Like that whole polarity of...
At the end of the day, they're still human, but it is tough to see that middle ground.
Yeah. So it was interesting. We kind of segued into this. So I want to know more details because I didn't ask you guys before about the celebration of Mac.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of give an idea of what this is? To me, I have an idea, I guess, of what it is, but tell me what it is, what you guys do, what I guess people get out of it in terms of the experience. What is it? Like, how can I attend? When is it? Give me the scoop, I guess, if I were to ask you right now, like, what is it? What's the event? How does it work? You could base yourself also on the one that you guys just did. The one that you guys just did was on, or both of them, I mean?
Both of them, September 2nd
September 2nd
and 9th.
September 2nd and September 9th.
Something like that. It's hard for us to remember dates
September.
Just because, for one, it's a blur, but it changes every year depending on which weekend we end up doing it on. So
it's usually the first portion of September.
For the most part, yeah. It's changed a couple times based on, there's a couple things behind the scenes that we have to kind of play around with, but it's usually we try to do it on the first weekend of September. And then now that we're expanding, we have to kind of play with the dates on what kind of fits best for each city. But for this year was the beginning of September.
Nice. So yeah, give me the rundown, I guess, of what it was or what it is. And then maybe later we could get into what you guys envision. We don't need to, but we could maybe just base ourselves on the last 2 years, just to get an idea of, for people who are not necessarily seeing posts or seeing what it is. Maybe some people would want to be like, oh shit, I didn't know this existed. I'm gonna, I live close. I'm gonna take a flight. Meet more people. Yeah. So give me, and even for myself, like I have, the base understanding of what it is.
So, like I was mentioning earlier, like Blue Slide Park is like a pinnacle of Mac Miller's music. He had a full album titled this, so it was just like a way to bring people together at that specific place. I don't think there's any other place that we would love to do it. Blue Slide Park is definitely iconic in the Mac Miller scene.
Which is where?
It's in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in Point Breeze, more precisely. It's like a little district around there. It's like a very cute city. Like it's very like markets and everything.
Yeah, it's where he grew up. So in a lot of his early music videos, you see a lot of the scenery. You see the places that you pass by on the way there. So it's really cool.
So like even for fans who come there for the event at Blue Slide Park, like they're able to do so many things around the park that are like linked to the videos. Yeah, I mean, at the park, usually we have like just a simple gathering. It's free for everyone, all ages. Should I keep going?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry to bother you. It's a gathering for all ages, and we have usually live artists that do paintings there of Mac Miller, of things related. Super talented artists. We have live music DJs playing for 4 or 5 hours, depending on how long the event is. And it's just a gathering of all fans being together and sharing experiences, dancing, talking, laughing. It's honestly really beautiful. And then we have our after party that
we just started introducing last year, which we're kind of taking a toll on finding ways to expand that again, to kind of bring into the aspect of like celebrating his life. So giving people a more intimate feeling during the day so people could be at a place that is iconic to Mac Miller. A place to kind of share the memories and experience that whole encapsulating memory of him, but then also bringing in the after party aspect. So again, people could, kind of wind down a bit, enjoy themselves, meet new people, like just have fun. And the one thing that I do want to mention that I think we mentioned earlier too, is that we could explain it and we can kind of draw the picture for you, but until you go there, and this is based on like, again, our words, but the words of people that always attend.
Well, look, I've seen videos and pictures.
Yeah, it's a weird thing because it's not the same as pictures when you get there, it's just a different experience.
Do you want to unlock your peak performance? Today's sponsor can help you do just that. Ever wondered how to track your heart rate 24/7, monitor your sleep, and measure your daily strain effortlessly? Introducing the Whoop Strap, the answer to all your performance and recovery needs. With its sleek design and real-time data at your fingertips, sync seamlessly with your smartphone for in-depth insights and recommendations. Trusted by elite athletes and health enthusiasts worldwide, the Whoop Strap is your partner in reaching your full potential. Don't miss out. Elevate your performance with the Whoop Strap today. It's essentially a coach on your wrist for everything recovery and performance related. And a little detail I absolutely love is that the Whoop Strap does not have a screen, so I love this. That's why you see me wearing it on all my videos. It's lightweight and has really helped me stay consistent with building healthy habits. Get a free Whoop Strap and free first month by visiting join.whoop.com/jhorniak or click the link in the description. Now, back to the podcast. Okay.
So we covered the park.
Yeah, the park.
Cody was starting to explain the after party, quote unquote.
Yeah, so there's the after party.
I think the last thing I said was talking about how it's a different experience being there than from what you see online.
On your phone or on your computer. Okay. So say if we base ourselves on the one that just happened beginning of September or last month, pretty much, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, last month. Pretty much almost day for day-ish. Last month. So you guys did 2 events where it was a gathering of a lot of people.
Yeah.
For the celebration of Mac. So you guys did Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Blue Slide Park.
Yep.
And then after party was,
general area was close to Pittsburgh.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Then a second event for the first time.
Yep.
For the first time. How many days later? You said
it was
second
a week.
It was a week.
A
week. Perfect.
Yeah.
So the second event this year was in
Los Angeles,
California. And where was this? Because there's no Blue Slide Park, I imagine.
Yeah, so that was one of the tough kind of logistic things that we had to talk about because obviously Pittsburgh is the only place that makes sense to do this for a celebration, I guess. Being his hometown, there's so many more, I guess, experiences that people can get coming to the event. Again, for one, being at the park, which is iconic to him.
Yeah.
But being in that general area where you could experience things that you've seen in music videos, you've seen where he grew up, you've seen where he went to school, like that's his area. Like you get to live that.
The scenes from all the video clips.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like it's by itself is an immersive experience because you're getting to live through everything you've seen growing up and getting to experience what he got to see every day. Now, obviously, the hard part is when you want to expand to different cities, that isn't a thing you can do because there's only so many things that you can bring from other cities that make sense.
Makes sense, yeah.
So we decided to just do a simple after party in LA, which was just we rented a venue, we kind of did it there, which, people were kind of saying it felt like going to one of his concerts. Like that was the best way to explain it, which is such a gratifying feeling to reach that kind of level of being able to give people that experience. But apart from that is one of our challenges is what can we implement to give people more of an immersive experience that's not in Pittsburgh? Because again, when you're there, you have all these things to do, which is a challenge for us coming up, wanting to expand to different cities. But for LA this year was just like the after party vibe.
Nice. Which kind of brings a different, would it bring a different crowd in that situation, you think?
Yes and no, because people did kind of ask like, okay, well, what are we doing in LA? Because people were also expecting, okay, well, if Pittsburgh that we've been doing for the past 5 years looks like this and you're doing a new city now, how does that look compared to Pittsburgh? Which was, again, a challenge to us because you don't want to downplay what we do already and you don't want to give people a half experience of what they could be getting in Pittsburgh because then it's not the same.
Right. So how did the idea and why did the idea come about of expanding to a second location and was this last minute? I imagine not because you mentioned the word logistics.
It can be last minute. It can be.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean,
so where did that idea? Like, did you text each other and be like, Mark, Cody, we gotta do this here because we're seeing that our engagement. There's a lot of people from the West Coast.
Yeah.
Did it work like that?
I mean, more or less, I think we wanted to expand in the West Coast because we knew our demographic from our social pages. There was a big percentage in LA. So it just made sense, but also getting messages of people like messaging us. Moving or expanding it's a long-term process. We've been talking about it for like 2-3 years. So, it's a work in progress and we finally made it happen last year. But yeah, it's just, especially going with demographics, we have to focus on who our audience is.
Yeah.
And that goes for anything. I mean, you have to target that specific market. We're not going to go to a place or a country that like there's no engagement, so it doesn't make sense. So it was definitely a lot of research put into it, see what we think would work best and try to plan accordingly.
So it's at a point now where, and I'm not saying it wasn't at a point, but it's at a point now where it's like, it's a big project. It's a big, I don't know if the word is business necessarily there, because that falls into like a monetizable branch. So it's a big
project.
It's a big project that continues to, the snowball continues to grow. The machine is getting bigger. As two people who are in it right now together, running the Mac Miller Memoir, like, what is it like being two? Because being one person, everything is on, let's say you, or it's on the individual. But now, do you guys have like talks to where, Cody, you're doing this, Mark, you're taking care of this? Is there individual tasks that he's taking care of and vice versa? Or is it at a point where it's like that, or you guys just know how to divide it well without even really meeting each other and telling each other? Because, at a certain point, and it's only going to get bigger. Like, how does that work? Just because I'm not in a position where I have, a second, third person beside me, where it's like, you're at the table together and have the blueprints in front of you, and you're like, okay, Mark, this is your task. This is like, does it work like that now? Or?
I mean, I think we both know our strengths. Yeah. So when it comes to
and weaknesses?
Yeah, absolutely. Like for networking, for example, he's a lot better than I am. I don't take care of the emailing. I don't take care of any of that. But when it comes to business admin or like numbers, punching in numbers, I could do that. I love doing that. So for me, it's like it works hand in hand.
It complements well.
Yeah, I think we got, I'm not going to say lucky, but like I've known Mark pretty much my entire life. So like getting to know his strengths and weaknesses over the years, even before we started any of this, it made everything a lot easier going into it, because I already knew like, okay, he's really good at some things, I'm really good at some things, and like they complement each other.
That's amazing.
So, I mean, there is a lot of things still where, obviously, like you said, as we expand, the challenges get bigger. So we have the equal shared kind of opportunity to sit down and like, okay, we both don't know how to do this. So like, how do we work together to figure this out?
And it's a learning opportunity for both of us at the same time, So
and I think it helps too that obviously we bump heads like everybody else. Yeah. But we come together in the shared kind of passion of like, we want to do this for the greater cause. Yeah. So being able to, again, put our differences aside and like, okay, how do we figure this out together? Like, we need to solve this. And like he said, business admin or like analytics when it comes to social media, like he does this for a living now. So he's really good at that aspect. When it comes to like, again, the social networking or whatever, like that's always been a strength of mine. So again, put together, I mean, they complement each other. Yeah. So that's for the most part.
Nice. So I get a bit more specific. I'm interested. Mm-hmm. What would you say like is his, is his strength? I'm interested in that because like it's some good self-awareness for what you're saying and what you're saying, but like for you to be like not necessarily vulnerable or just self-aware of the other person. And I think like you just said, the foundation to the fact that you guys knew each other young age, I think that solidifies a lot, and the person too, on top of the strengths and weaknesses. But if you were to just the compliment side of things in terms of strength, what would one person say to the other? Like, what would you say to him? Like in terms of like it's interesting to me just because the fact that like it's a two-man project, and like it's a project that's really growing, expanding. It's it's like two really good friends that came together to create this and that are putting time towards something. And I know it's a funny question, but like just like what's the, and like vice versa too, like what's the one thing you would say, I guess, about Mark in terms of his top quality, in terms of like just whatever, and then same thing for you, because again it brings a lot of understanding of who the person is, and it's cool that on the spot too, like there's that awareness together, and the fact that two people are on the same like train, and they know their seats on the train, and
I'm gonna take it in. I'm gonna soak it in. Be nice with it.
Yeah, I think just the interaction that we're having now kind of speaks to like just how we are again in a friendship, but let alone a partnership when it comes to business. I think the one thing that I really appreciate about him is just his trust and his vision in things, and that again underlying whether we're complementary or we butt heads or whatever it may be, the fact that we have trust in each other to get things done or have that same vision in the long run over complements everything. So I think when it comes to, for example, like if we're trying to brainstorm a certain social media push or how we're gonna, promote a certain announcement coming up, I could fully trust and give it to him to like, what it's gonna look like, what's gonna work the best, what's gonna push the best, and I could sit back and trust that anything he does is gonna work.
And even there, it's like it's not even a solo job. It's like it's a back and forth.
Yes.
You're gonna write a text, send it to me. Okay, proofread it. It's good. Send it back to you, and like it just bounce back. And trust for me is also a big thing. Like I know your head is going towards the right direction. I know we want to go where we want to be. So it was just. I mean, I could hand off a project to him, and there's been a year where I had to branch off for personal reasons, and he took the workload and didn't say one thing. So I mean,
which wasn't easy, but I also knew in the back that like he was able to do whatever he could do. So I never felt like
trust.
I never felt like he's just dumping everything on me and I had to take the workload. But being able to know that like he still took on whatever he could, again, just speaks to the trust. But things have to get done a certain way, and like again, anything that I could put it on him or vice versa, it's gonna get done in the same respect of whatever I would do or whatever he would do. It's already like a mutual agreement as to like what it's going to look like as a finished project.
And I'd like to say the communication is also in there. There's times where you're going to message me like, I can't do this week. So I'm going to take on the workload or like vice versa, There's always that like communication. And I think that's what a lot of people are missing is just being able to vocalize and trusting your partners or your colleagues, I can't do this. Can you help me out?
No.
Just voicing that. You alleviate yourself from so much work and like you're able to focus on your own things, and come back stronger afterwards.
Together, everyone achieves more.
Yeah.
This whole teammate approach.
Teamwork, yeah.
I love it. It's what would you, the two together with where you are now and what you've learned, because I imagine that it's been a huge learning curve too at the same time. It continues to be for anyone, no matter where you reach your craft. Mm-hmm. What would you give as like a tip for people starting their own project, or a suggestion, or it doesn't need to be either like analytical. It could be just, trust in one another, or find the right partner, make sure it's the right person. Or, is there anything like that you guys would suggest just with everything that you learned up to now? Just, working together and building this project, visioning probably together some ideas and like spitballing together like certain brainstorming ideas. What would your tip, I guess, be to people either listening to this, have something similar? And I think people just active on social media wanting to grow their presence and build a community, because I think brands that are able to build a community are very successsul.
Yeah,
if you're able to build a community in terms like you're pretty much building a cult.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
But like the community, the community, if you're able to do that and create the community and bring people together for this thing or this person, there's a lot of success with that. So what would, I guess you could go first. What would you say?
I think the most simple is like, it's so easy to get caught up in numbers, especially when you're starting out where,
numbers meaning like the analytics?
Yeah, like
not
views
like money,
or
right?
likes. No, not money.
Okay.
For some people, depending on what business you're starting, it could be money. But for someone like myself, like who is a self-declaimed perfectionist, it's very easy to get caught up in this didn't get enough views, or this isn't getting likes, or why did this perform better than last week, or like what's going on. And I think the one thing that helped us kind of start out, and even today, is that we just don't care about stuff like that because we're doing it for the right reasons. And I think it, doesn't matter what project you're working on. If you're doing it for a purpose and you have something that's not just based on views or money or likes, that'll always get you to the next step, because you're not constantly thinking about why didn't this perform as well, or why isn't this getting likes. You're just pushing through because your long-term goal is going to be the same regardless.
Yeah, I think it would be listening to your audience. I mean,
Is it listening to your audience and also listening to just like people around you that is not your audience, if that makes sense?
yeah,
Or just listening overall?
just listen, take a step back and just sit down and listen and just learn. I think that's, when we started, we weren't that, it was just different content. We were just pushing content, seeing what was working, what wasn't working, and taking a step back and look at like the bigger picture. We're able to learn and like grow from that. I think building a community, it's literally learning your audience how to convey a certain message, and that's the entire basis of our marketing. Is just we know what they want, we put that content forward, and we're going to keep doing that.
Yeah, just to again touch on what he's saying, because even with what we have now is like a fan page, and anyone who's ever had one or has that idea in their head, it's very hard to drive that a certain direction because there's only a certain amount of things you could post. Eventually, you're going to fall into the loop of everything's going to be repeated because you can't be doing technically original content because you're a fan page.
Right.
So for us, it was, again, like you said, finding out what worked in the beginning. And we really had to, walk that fine line between being a fan page and almost having that business mindset of like figuring out what works and what doesn't and how to push that boundary of remaining with the fan content, but keeping it original enough to be like where none of the other pages are posting that or what works and what's standing out. So like he said, there's a lot of learning in it. It's learning to, find those little pockets of what works and what doesn't and being able to, again, walk that line.
What's the long-term goal with the Mac Miller Memoir?
I think, talking for myself, I think long-term goal is obviously expanding, maybe doing other cities. If the demand's there, obviously, we're not going to do other cities if, no one wants to have those events in those cities. But expanding, probably making it a more immersive experience, creating experiences for the people that come, adding some sort of events, maybe making it a week-long type of thing.
Wow.
There's... We already started collabing with, last year we had like a tattoo artist that did a pop-up shop for Mac Miller tattoos one day. So we had that. There was another person that we worked with who did he has what is it? Food.
Yeah, he has his own like food kind of pop-up event where he has like his own food menu customized to be a Mac Miller themed. Really? He integrated like an art gallery sort of vibe where like people could submit their Mac Miller art, which was really cool. It was really immersive. But it's cool too because like with what he's explaining is we're able to kind of incorporate these like local artists and these local kind of like businesses to really showcase what this city has to offer and bringing in the best of both worlds where it's, our supporters who are coming for the events, but also showcasing what the city has to kind of incorporate them, which is really cool.
So if I understand, like a huge part of it is like the in-person celebrations from celebration of Mac for Mac.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the big core of the Mac Miller Memoir now, right?
Absolutely.
Because I think that's what differentiates us. We host those events. We're not just a fan page. We're a fan page that actually like
with a physical immersive
experience,
And that's again, shout out to both of us for like our business kind of analytic side of our heads where it's like we had this thing in front of us and we saw an opportunity to really bring the fans something greater than just a fan page online.
Is there and you can tell me if you guys want to speak about this. I'm just curious because I have no idea. Are you allowed to monetize anything? And do you want to fall into something like that or no?
So it's tricky to talk about because we don't really care about stuff like that. And at the same time, we want to walk a line where we're really respectful to the estate and to management, the family, to make sure that we're doing it for the right reasons. We've definitely had occasions where people have come to us for sponsors and whatever, and we have to turn them down because that's not what we're leaning towards. The only tricky thing is obviously going forward to expand is the funding. And that is something that we have to lean again towards this fine line of working with the people that we already work with who are so graciously giving us the funding to create these events, finding a way to, I guess, become self-funding to create, like sustain these events while also making sure that people understand that we're not profiting off this. We're not trying to put these like money into our pockets for whatever we're doing. We're trying to like expand, but we have to have the funding behind it. So it's tough.
Yeah, I could imagine that's tricky. There's a fine line. It's so tricky, like you said. I was just curious because I have no clue. So I'm thinking. I'm thinking because it's an interesting structure. You know, it's an interesting structure of things, and like you said, it's tricky.
Yeah.
So in terms of the funding, so how does that work in terms of like, do you reach out to people? Do they reach out to you? How could people help the Mac Miller Memoir and you guys to continue the, you know, growing the machine? How does that work? Like how like just even people listening too, like do they help? Does it work like that, or is it more private people that you're reaching out to get donations or funding? Like how does it work? Or
So
you want to speak of that?
We don't do donations. We don't accept donations. Okay. It's solely from people that we can't mention because they choose not to be associated or like directly with us. They're happy to do it.
It's like angel investors in a sense.
So if and tell me if I'm wrong or right or on the right like side or train of thought there. So it's pretty much like they're seeing that it's bringing a lot of exposure to Mac Miller, and it's a celebration of, you know, it's continuing on his legacy in terms of celebrating. So they're like, continue doing this because we like the positivity it brings back to Mac Miller, his family and entourage. So it's kind of that, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to get it confused and people think that it's some random person giving us money. It's definitely within the music industry.
Absolutely, yeah.
And again, huge shout out to his family and the estate for being super supportive of everything we do. And I think that's one thing I have to mention, that they were supportive from day one. And again, to walk a fine line of not quoting anybody, but someone who's very important to us and important to everything, to have their immediate support from day one, but to also say that like they trust us with everything that we do. And we're one of the only people that they trust to host these events. So to have that for ourselves is really important, and it means a lot to us, but also just to show again that like out of everything that we do, just knowing that we have their support and it means a lot to them is all
immediate. It's the immediate attachment. And you mentioned the word trust again, which is crazy. That's the thing that it takes the most. And we mentioned that's what, you know, trust. Yeah. You gave that as like a tip, trust. So yeah, like for people listening and stuff, it's not just like, oh, they could visit somewhere where they could like fun. It's more like
the best way to support us is following us and just showing that you're interested in having those events, like supporting us.
That's cool. That's so cool. And the fact that there's no like profit off of it, or you're not chasing or focusing on creating like a monetizable profit, I think that's even more interesting.
Because that's what it's not what it's about.
Authentic. Yeah. I think that's what. There's a huge percentage in there that, in terms of the success of it so far, I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think some people probably understand it, see it. I definitely see it, and I think that plays a huge, you know, return of investment, so to speak, with what you guys, you know, built.
Yeah. It gives us a lot of drive too, because it gives us the freedom of being able to like brainstorm ideas and not have to worry about, is this going to make us money or are we losing money here? It's like we have the freedom to, you know, come up with our ideas and find ways to, I guess, incorporate it in the funding that we currently have. Yeah. But again, having such a trustworthy team of people that we kind of work with and being able to pitch ideas to them and like, how do you guys think that this would work out for next year? Or like being able to bounce those ideas off and not be shut down immediately, which is really supportive. But yeah, taking out the monetary aspect in anything that we do, because again, to this day, we've never touched money, but it gives us the freedom of being able to like just focus on the goal ahead of the mission and not have to worry about anything behind it.
Amazing. Oh my God. No, that's cool. It's nice. So where could people find, I know it's straightforward, the Mac Miller Memoir. Where is it? What's it called?
The Mac Miller Memoir, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.
X Mark.
X. I'm a social media manager too.
Never calling it X. It's Twitter forever.
Twitter X.
I thought you wanted Elon Musk.
That's one of the conversations we're gonna have to have. I don't know. I'm not liking it.
I subscribe to X Premium services.
You could have had Mark Zuckerberg at that table with them. So the Mac Miller Memoir on, you know, X,
on any social
media platform, it's all the Mac Miller Memoir.
Just Mac Miller Memoir.
Oh, Mac Miller Memoir, not No. Oh, okay. I thought it was Okay, so Mac Miller Memoir, X, Facebook, Instagram. Is there a website?
Not
yet.
Oh. Wait, we're not done.
But wait,
Okay,
there's more.
On the next episode.
So do you want to say a bit?
It's work in progress.
Okay.
It's work in progress.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, cool. So I think, we covered it. I wanted to speak a lot about, what you guys did together. And it's cool too, again, because you guys have a background together in terms of being good friends. And, it's not like it wasn't a link together in terms of like, hey, you want to start like a business together, and I'm not saying it's a business, but it has like structures of that. So that's what I find really cool. And the fact that there's trust both ways, that's difficult. Yep. It's difficult to find. It's difficult to create. It's difficult to have, especially with someone that you have like, I guess, a past with. Even, past or not, like it's a lot. Yep. It plays a huge role. And, about what you said about listening, I always say you have to listen more than you speak.
Absolutely.
And I always say that whenever like I'm in like a circle of like, a conversation with people, I always, I'm not the loud extroverted speaker. I always try to listen more than I speak, just because there's more value, and I'm not that type of person. But I always say like listen more than you speak. And it's funny that you said listen. That's why I asked you, is it only about your audience or is it about the people around you?
It's
so
everywhere.
the fact, it's everywhere. Everywhere, everyone. So thanks for coming. Thanks for having us. I know we cut it a couple times, but
never for little breaks.
Yeah. Is there anything you guys want to say about what you're doing, or maybe what is coming next year? If you want to promote anything, maybe why not?
I can't.
Well, the first thing I want to say is this is a good opportunity for us to again speak on the backside and like the things that people don't get to see. Leading up to like now our 5th year doing this, people don't see what goes into putting on the events. People just think that we set a date and people show up. But kind of showing or raising awareness that, there's a lot of work that goes into planning these things. We work months ahead of time before the events happen. And just, we really do appreciate everyone who supports us along the way. People who, who show up to the events, or people who even just give their gratitude to understand what we do behind the scenes. And coming up for the future, there's a lot of plans that we have, a lot of expansion ideas, but nothing that we can mention yet. Stay tuned. Yeah.
Turn on notifications.
And you'll obviously see it, people will obviously see it if they visit the page. And you guys want to say your individual pages or leave that out?
I'm good.
Is that something? No? Okay.
It's all good.
It's not about me. It's not.
No, perfect. You never know, because sometimes people want to see also their.
Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest.
By all means, if you guys want to look us up, you could just follow the Mac Miller Memoir page. We're easy to find on the page.
Exactly.
If you need to find us, you'll find us.
It's linked. It's just because it's interesting to always see who's behind either a project or this project. To be specific, it's interesting to see what type of people are behind it. Because I think a lot of people kind of connect with you guys, not connecting like in terms of like messaging you, but connecting meaning like, they see a similarity.
Right.
And I think that's huge too, because it could give people some good momentum or a different perspective on what they could do on their
Inspiring
people. So that's why because it's not like, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not like you guys are like, these angel investor people that are just like, hiring a team of 50 to do this, and like, it's not that. And I think that's it's an interesting aspect to see each person individually of what you're like, what you like, what your hobbies are. Same thing for you. So
I think it's cool in the community, because people that either come to our events or know us through the memoir kind of got to know us individually. Like most people kind of know who we are now just by seeing us there or online or whatever. So, again, if you need to find us, you could find us on the page. You'll find us.
Yeah. Cool, boys.
So thank you.
Thanks for having us. That was fun.
I was so excited to get you guys here, and I'm happy too that you guys weren't hesitant to come up. I was saying
I'm so excited.
It was a long time in the making. It was overdue.
And it supports me too at the same time, having you guys on. Haven't done hundreds of episodes yet, but just
we'll be back.
Round 2, round 2
next year,
maybe in at an event.
At the event,
that'd be crazy on the stage,
live.
That'd be crazy.
Okay.
So yeah, keep it up. Honestly, both of you.
Thank
It's
you.
cool to see, and it's fun. You know, Cody, you to see something that you're attached to, that you like a lot, because I know you started things, and you know we spoke about it before. It's cool to see. It's fun. I feel it, you know, for you. So I can't imagine you. And it's fun to, you know, wake up and have something you're attached to and you're good to at it. So, you know, same thing for you. And to dive into 100%, you know, the whole social media approach prior to, or maybe at the same time as Mac Miller Memoir, you were telling me, you know, you all in on yourself.
Yeah.
And we exchanged messages a bit. You told me I'm all in on this. It's 100%. You're open to learning. It's like, it's good tools that you guys have in your toolbox. And I think like just being open to and not thinking like, you know, you guys are listening, you guys are just open to learning, and look at, you know, what you guys built pretty much. And, you know, regardless of the whole piggybacking off of someone's name already that was established, you gotta be good.
We're doing it for the right cause, and I know that if he's able to look down and see everything, he's happy about it. So that's all that matters to us.
Yeah. Good boys. Now we're gonna go
Little
roast
dive.
in the sauna, and
And that's powered by TeamMADE.